Hey there, music fans. This is Phil and Ben coming at you, as they say in some hip circles. Welcome to Full Record Jacket, where Ben is consuming watermelon by the looks of it. Yeah, lovely. Thanks for that, Ben.
What were your words just before we press record?
I can't stand eating noises. Don't do it on the microphone. It's probably not a good idea to tell Ben not to do something, is it? Really? But there you go. So you called this meeting, Ben. You wanted me to come online with you quickly and record a show, and you wanted to talk about the
Sacking
year.
you. Oh,
Oh,
oh, yeah. I've been meaning to break this news to you, Phil. That I'm replacing you.
with a watermelon?
No, with Roger Moore.
Ah,
So what's that, Roger Moore? You think Oasis are brilliant? You love reggae? Oh, man, you should be. And you've got a full head of hair. I know combs are brilliant, aren't they? Yeah, yeah. The Ben and Roger show. Yeah, it's going to be. Yeah. Anyway, Phil, Roger Moore's taking over from you.
I can't. What can I say? I mean, he's got hair. Well, I mean, I can't compete with that, can I?
He's got a gun as well in that
Yeah.
hand. No, not really, Phil. So I'm not replacing you yet.
I was kind of hoping, but
I know. But I'm not that cruel. Or am I cruel? Keeping you with me?
it would save me at least 2 hours a week.
It would do. Yeah, it would. It would. And literally, out of those 2 hours, approximately. Now, let me work this out, Phil. What's 69 divided by, and then times it by 12, and then multiply it by the square root of the circumference of Jupiter equals, we put out of that 2 hours, 120 minutes, we put literally no minutes of preparation in.
It's probably about right.
Yeah.
Although when we do our quizzes, we do prepare those, don't we? But some of these
Yes, we do,
discussions
yeah.
are somewhat unscripted. So the year 1997, this month, that is what we're talking about. And we are listening to albums from 97, although Ben's seemingly doing the lion's share of the listening. But
I am doing the lion's share of the listening. We have, and you'll have to excuse my croaky throat. I feel like I've got the onset of COVID again, so I may cough. It could be because of celebrating the football on Friday night, but we have had a crossover, haven't we? We have listened to two albums the same, which was Buena Vista Social Club and Yo La Tengo.
yeah, now the Buena Vista Social Club, I mean, it's, what can you say? It's Cuban music.
It is. I quite enjoyed it, but it's also the sort of music you'll hear in a department store.
I know what you mean. It's I knew, I thought you might say something like that. I thought you might have said that you'd hear it in a cafe or something.
Yeah, a cafe. It is definitely cafe music. Or if you're having a soiree, you can't see it from here, but I'm on the east wing of the mansion, the Phil and Ben mansion, and we've got just over by the double pool, both in the shape of our heads. There is sort of like the patio area, and when we have our sort of Spanish sort of nights, those sort of themed nights, it would go down really well for them, wouldn't it? So it didn't. I'm not saying it's inspiring in any. It was nice. It was good. I like the album cover.
It's a bit jazzy. You know,
it is a bit jazzy.
Cool. But like a lot of, and there's a bit of jazz music fits into this category, doesn't it? That it works well in the background as a social gathering.
Yeah.
That's not to say that it doesn't also work well if you listen to it. Oh, look, he would actually be a great replacement for me.
He would, wouldn't he?
He certainly, definitely would.
It'd probably be a great replacement for me. Shall I just do the whole show like that and just,
But I remember having this conversation with somebody once years ago that the Miles Davis album kind of blew.
I love that album.
This friend I was talking to at the time, he put it on for some family gathering or something, I think.
Yeah.
And he said it worked pretty well as music in the background. But that's not to say that it isn't a great album that
No,
rewards proper listening.
yeah,
But he wouldn't necessarily do that with some of Miles Davis's music,
or like
particularly some of
Bitches Brew or something like
it
that.
possibly wouldn't work quite as well. But yeah, the Buena Vista Social Club, it was one of those albums that was so popular that it kind of got played everywhere, didn't it? And
Yeah.
that can devalue it to some extent.
Yeah, I think one of the things I will say about it is one of those albums that if you're in somewhere, like if somebody had it on in the background, you'd be like, "Oh, that's really great." It's one of those albums that you'd sort of not hear but hear and be like, "I should really own that."
Well, it obviously worked because they sold quite a few copies of
They
that
did,
one.
yeah, and it's got a great. I love that album cover. I do really like that album cover for that album. That sort of Havana Street,
Yeah,
with the guy with his cap on.
yeah.
It's quite basic, quite simple. Some may say like us, Vilster.
Now, the other album that we both listened to is by an American
trio.
What would you call them? An alternative band?
Alternative alt country rock, maybe.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Oh, Americana a bit.
Yeah. What did I say to you? They reminded me of. Was it Bob Dylan? They reminded me of Bob Dylan, the Flaming Lips,
Lou Reed,
and something else which I can't remember. But a bit of country.
Yeah, I got a bit of Beach Boys from it as well.
Yes, you did.
But
not cover,
just there is a Beach Boys cover on there. There's a version of Little Honda, but there's another song that to me sounded like sort of the Beach Boys Friends album, late 60s era.
That was it, the Strokes, because not so much the sound, it's just more because some of the songs he's got quite that slow delivery, almost talking, singing. And it reminded me a little bit in tone of Julian Casablancas or whatever his name is.
Well, and that's the Lou Reed style as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I really enjoyed that album. It's I would like to say it's in my top 3. It's not, because my top 3 are already. I think I know my top 3 because they're the 3 albums from that year that I remember listening to a lot. But I'm really glad I found that album and I found that band because I really enjoyed that album.
I Can Hear the Heart Beating as One is the title of the 1997 album by Yo La Tengo. And at that time, the lineup was Georgia, Era, and James.
Yeah, because they're married, aren't they?
Yeah, because Georgia Hubley is married to Era Kaplan. Yeah, am I right to think of that? Yeah, that's right. And then there's the other guy.
Because she comes from a famous family of animators, doesn't she?
Is that right? Yes. I knew she's from some artistic family. Yeah. She's also designed some of their covers as well, their album covers. Yeah. But yeah, creative, slightly wacky.
Yeah.
Bit of krautrock in there as well. So if you like all those influences that we just talked about, you might be interested in the Yo La Tengo catalogue.
Yeah. I'm really glad I listened to it. I'm really glad I found it. I feel like this 1997 quest has a sort of, filled up my jug a bit more.
You've unearthed a gem. Yeah,
I have. I think so. Yeah. Have you listened to any more?
I know you haven't, because I know they're the only 2 you've listened to.
There's only 2 I listened to this week. I must confess.
I've been on a smashing, and I've been on a quest of 1997 this week, because I listened to the Supernaturals album. It Doesn't Matter Anymore. I love that album. I saw them support Robbie Williams in February 98, and there was him and a Divine Comedy, and so I bought this album from seeing them support, and it's a really great pop indie album.
Yeah, so I don't know much about them. What's the best known song that I would have heard?
Smile, probably. That's the one that got used. Like, you gotta smile, 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 because that's all that you've got left. Your
Oh,
life's a
okay.
mess. You've been cut adrift.
Oh, yeah, okay. Maybe you may be ringing a bit of a bell. I was going
You
to
have to
say,
excuse my croaky singing voice there. So
if I was going to say, if they were supporting Robbie Williams, does that put them really sort of more in the pop category, or they leaning a bit towards alternative
I would
indie?
say that they're indie pop. That's
Yeah.
what I'd class that album as. I think it's a really, really good album. I think it's a very underrated album from that period.
Is that how many albums did the Supernaturals make?
Oh, now you've got me. I know they made at least 3. Supernaturals. They are from Glasgow, Scotland. And they are currently, they broke up in 2002, got back in 2012, and are still together. They have released 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 albums. It Only Gets Worse was the last album released July of last year.
So the one you're talking about is the debut, and this is the one with the smiling monkey on the front.
It is the
Yeah.
one with the smiling
Yeah.
monkey, which I have on CD and 12-inch vinyl. And it's got, I think that album's got The Day Before Yesterday, The Day Before Yesterday, Day Before Yesterday's Man. It's a really good indie pop album, Phil.
Apparently, it's very melodic, and it was quite highly regarded as well.
Yes, yeah.
NME gave it 8 out of 10. Q Magazine gave it 4 stars. The current rating on All Music is 4 stars out of 5.
Yeah.
So it's obviously certainly not a bad record. So I'll have to check it out.
You'll have to check that one out. And then next on my list, because I listened to that, I then listened to the Robbie Williams album, Life Through a Lens, which is another great bit of indie pop.
Now, that was his first album. Now, that one has a picture on the front of him. Was there a camera?
Loads of people around.
There's people around him.
He's in like a crowd, isn't he?
Is there a camera pointing at him? Was he holding a camera or something?
I can't honestly remember, but
that's the one with Angels and Let Me Entertain You.
It is, yeah.
Is She's the One on there as well?
No, that was on the second album. So it's a.
What's another big? Is another big hit on that album that I wouldn't know?
There was Lazy Days, South of the Border.
What was the one that sounded almost like a little bit Oasis light?
Oh, Before I Die.
That's the one. Yeah.
And then South of the, I think, yeah. So, and then there's a what's the track where it's? I think it's loosely based on Tara Para Tompkinson or whatever her name was.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's really good. It's just a really good album. It brings back a lot of memories from that period because I bought it because you know what I'm like, and I'll prove it. I do like to test a solo album when someone's been part of a big band and they've gone solo. Now, I'm not a massive fan of Mumford and Sons. There's one song that me and my dad used to sing in my yellow van, which I quite liked. But I did go out the other week and buy Marcus Mumford's solo album just to see if it's a sort of, bit different to their normal stuff. So I bought this album, or I got it bought for me before it really kicked off with Angels. So I remember hearing Angels for the first time on, I think it was Joe Wiley's. Remember, she used to like the Live Lounge.
Yeah.
And so it would have, and we were working together, Philster, and I went out on my lunch and I wasn't feeling particularly great, which seems to be a common theme with me. And I remember listening to it on the radio and then falling asleep not long afterwards. And had a 3-hour lunch break, 2 hours and the 50 minutes spent asleep in my car. So, but yeah, it's just another good, solid pop album, indie pop album. So I've listened to that. I also listened to the U2 pop album, which I actually I haven't listened to it for years, and I think I said to you, I actually really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm in the I don't know how to describe it. Maybe it's a cult. There's a number of people who are fans of U2, and I'm fairly. I think I probably do qualify as a U2 fan because I have seen them live 3 times, and
you stalked The Edge for.
I do have most
7
of their
summers
albums.
on the trot.
Yeah, I do have most of the albums. I'm not a completist. I'm not super obsessed super fan, but I do, I have always quite liked U2 over the years.
And haven't you got some of Bono's used boxers? Stage worn.
If only, man. Yeah, if only.
Dear Bono, please may I have a pair of your pants? Lots of love, Phil Smith.
And one of the Edge's woolly hats.
Yeah. Woolly hats, yeah.
What was I saying? Yeah. I'm in this subgroup of U2 fans who really like the Pop album.
Now, I liked it.
There's basically 2 ways that the U2 fans went, didn't they, in the 90s? Because some people, of course, they've been around for about a decade, hadn't they, or even slightly longer.
Longer than that by this point, haven't they?
At the time they did Achtung Baby, which was sort of a comeback because even though when you think about it now, I mean, they did the Joshua Tree in 87.
Yeah.
And then they put out the Rattle and Hum album, which was associated with that tour. That came out in 88, end of 88.
That's the live album, isn't it?
Yeah, the partially live album.
Yeah.
And then, so 1989, they didn't do anything new. And 1990, there's just had 2 years where they didn't do anything new.
Yeah.
And that was seen at the time as being like an age that they'd been away for so long. And you think about it now, they didn't seem very much, but at the time...
No. Well, I was having this conversation with someone the other day when I think about the time before. It's mental for me now thinking about it, that from when Definitely Maybe came out to Morning Glory was 13 months. And then I remember the period between Morning Glory and Be Here Now, just thinking it's an absolute age. Once the sort of, the news that Be Here Now was coming out, that just seemed to take forever. But it was 23 months, 22 months. And you're just like, and now Noel Gallagher, 5 years between releases, Snow Patrol, 5 years, 10 years between, it's... Yeah. We were lucky back in the day, Phil, so we were lucky.
Yeah. Well, of course, U2 came back with Achtung Baby, and then Bono having his persona of the Fly. It was all seen that they were being a little bit more relaxed and not taking themselves
too seriously.
And that increased, I think, during the Zoo TV / Zooropa tour and the Zooropa album. They became even more experimental and went even further away from their what we might call their classic original style of stadium rock. Although, they never completely lost their original sound, did they? But I think they certainly did a few experimental things.
Let's face it, when Bono starts strumming, it's Bono.
Yeah, so but the Pop album was maybe, along with Zooropa, the most experimental of the records.
Yeah.
And of course, it's famously the one that they didn't finish to their satisfaction. Oh yeah, that's probably true as well. Yeah. So
buckle up, people.
Do you think it was finished, Ben? In your opinion, was it good enough to release?
Well, compared to anything that I've ever done, I mean, if I was sat there, I would have been like, yeah, that's all right. If that was my body of work, I would have been. I can probably see why they thought it wasn't finished, but then it's like I said on one of the previous shows, Noel Gallagher said about Don't Look Back in Anger after the Manchester bombings, and it got taken on and became this massive thing. And he looks back and at that, he says, to him, Morning Glory isn't properly finished. But then if he knew now that how big it was going to become, you would never finish it.
Yeah.
So in some regards, you think, well, maybe because it was rushed, it was probably more natural because they weren't overthinking it. They were literally just getting it done. But I really enjoyed. I can't remember what was the track. Was it Dead Man
Wake Up Dead Man is the closing song.
Yeah, I really that track I really enjoyed. I thought that's a really great track.
Now, did you like Miami? That's a weird one. I like that one, but a lot of people don't like that one.
I didn't mind Miami. Obviously, the singles stick out because they're the ones I mainly remember from the album. You can tell it. You could tell that the way they were going with that album back into All That You Can't Leave Behind, trying to get back to that sort of big stadium anthem sort of vibe to it. But as an album, yeah, I mean, it's not challenging my top 3, but I think it sounds better now than when I first bought it early 2000s. I listened to the singles when it came out. I didn't buy the album till about 2002, 2003. And I remember listening to it and it just sounded a bit disconnected and a bit, the flow of it didn't seem particularly great. And, but yeah, obviously as I've got older and more stupid and things like that probably don't matter as much to me anymore. But I do remember when I first listened to it, I thought the running order felt a bit disjointed. But I mean, I was in the gym working out, Philster. I was sweating, pumping up the guns, and yeah, it was a good album. It's not as bad as what some people think, and I
don't think it is. No,
it's not their greatest body of work, but I can see why they, went and did finish some of them off. Was it Songs of Innocence or Age of Innocence or whatever it was? So, but yeah, it was a perfectly fine album. It's compared to what I would do, it's I'm more into glockenspiel rock. That's what I'd be on.
So that's enough for you two. What else have you been listening to from '97?
Sorry. I listened to Fat of the Land.
Oh, The Prodigy.
The Prodigy. Now, that is like jacked up rock and roll, that was. It's one of those, I've never listened to it in its entirety, mainly because I'd have it on and then I'd get a headache. But I thought, no, I'm going to listen to it. And I put it on and once again, I've matured, Philster.
I don't think I've ever listened to it in its entirety, or I may have done once. I may have been exposed to it in someone's car, but
what, cruising around the town with your homies?
No, we all remember Firestarter and Breathe and all those hits. But are the other tracks on the album up to the standard of those singles?
I think they are. I thought listening to it, it was jacked up. It was like rock and roll on heroin. It was speedball rock and roll, and I thought it was a lot better than I thought. I found it more listenable than the Chemical Brothers Dig Out Your Hole or Dig Your Own Hole. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought. I don't think I'm not sure if it's a sort of one that you'd sit in your living room and be chilling out to. But then again, if it's on it is very much a gym record, but I can now see why it was as big and as popular as it was. It was the fastest selling album of the year for about a couple of weeks before Be Here Now came out. And I think it's a really, really good album. And I'm glad I've just rediscovered it from doing this because...
Does he provide vocals on every track, Keith Flint, or is only some songs?
No, he's not on every single one there. I'm sure there's a few guest vocalists on there because there's a few vocals I didn't sort of recognise. Let's have a look. I was going to say, I think I remember that about it, that the Twisted Firestarter himself is not providing vocals on every single track. Yeah. And obviously there was the track, which is the opening track, which name we probably can't mention on the Tube review.
Something up, yeah.
Yeah, because you had Cool Keith on there. Because I forgot there's a Crispin Mills written song as well. The Narayan.
Really?
Crispin Mills is on there. And
so there's a Cooler Shaker written song on the Prodigy album. I never knew that.
Yeah. Well, it's Liam Howlett and Crispin Mills, and also the last track has got Saffron from Republica as
All
well
right.
on. So yeah,
I
but
don't remember
Howl,
that.
yeah. So but Keith Flint's he's got a writing credit on Breathe. And I think Trevor Horn has. I forgot. I think we talked about this. Trevor Horn's got a writing credit on Firestarter.
Is that right? How much involvement did Trevor Horn have with that album? Was he part of the production or
Let's
anything?
have a look. Personnel. Yeah, because Keith Flint only does the vocals on Breathe, Serial Thriller, Firestarter, and Fuel My Fire.
Okay.
Other personnel. Let's have a look. No, he's not got any other.
It's probably just as well because I don't think I could take an album with non-stop Keith Flint. I think that would be a bit much for me.
No, yeah. So yeah, old Trevor Horn. Well, imagine like a full-on Trevor Horn Prodigy album.
I'm just looking at whether he hasn't actually got a credit on the personnel, so he's a co-writer on one track.
Yeah, on Firestarter by the looks of this. And then there was 2 tracks on the Japanese.
Is that one of these things though where they used part of an existing song and
possibly, yeah,
for that
yeah.
reason that's why all these people got credited? Because isn't one of the Art of Noise guys is credited on there as well? So maybe they sample something on it that
possibly.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll listen to that, and that again is tickling the tip of my top 3. I really
The Fat of the Land.
The Fat of the Land. So that's up there. And then the last one on my list, I think, is very, very much touching the top 3. And that is Word Gets Around by the Stereophonics. Love that album.
What are the big hits on that one?
Local Boy in a Photograph, More Life in a Tramp's Vest, 1,000 Trees, Traffic, and one of my favourite songs on the album, track 6, Not Up to You.
More Life in a Tramp's Vest. No one else has ever used that song title, I don't think.
No. And then there's Looks Like Chaplin, which is the second track, and Check My Eyelids for Holes, Same Size Feet, Last of the Big Time Drinkers, Goldfish Bowl, Too Many Sandwiches, and Billy Davies' Daughter.
There's some pretty good song titles, I have to say. I'm quite impressed by the titles of the songs.
Yeah, Billy Davies' Daughter is a little bit. It's very reminiscent of Ode to Billy Joe.
Okay.
You know, about sort of
the Tallahatchie Bridge.
Jumping off a bridge. Yeah. So, but this was Kelly Jones, Ali's sort of writing about life in small village Wales.
Is that the best thing that they've done? The first album?
I think so. Yeah, I mean the second album's good, but it's not as raw as this one.
Yeah, I think, as you know, I've never been that much of a fan of Stereophonics, and but I can't say that I've listened to all of the catalogue though, so I can't. I'm not going to slag them off because I can't be in a position to slag them off.
In some regards, they fall into like what we said the other week about Ocean Colour Scene of. You know, if you keep repeating the same thing, then the critics get.
Well, you know, I've got this issue with Foo Fighters.
Yes.
That I like the Nirvana stuff. You know, I wasn't a massive Nirvana fan, but I do dig Nirvana and I do appreciate the stuff, and I no problem with it. And I like Dave Grohl as a person. He seems a good guy. I like him.
Yeah.
But the Foo Fighters stuff has never massively grabbed me. But again, I haven't listened through the catalogue, so I'm not in a position.
Well, I'm like that with Muse, so
I don't want to say, you know, that I don't like the band because there may be some stuff that I've just missed. It hasn't grabbed me.
Yeah.
But it always feels to me like it's. And I think when I saw the Stereophonics, because I actually saw Stereophonics perform at the Isle of Wight as well.
I've seen them twice, I think. I think it's twice.
I just felt that it was the kind of music where all the ingredients to make a great rock song or band are there. It's like all the ingredients have been there, but somehow when I hear the end result, there isn't a flavour that grabs me of it. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it's like prawn
like-
cocktail crisps. All the things are there that you should like: potato, prawns, because I like prawns. But once they're together, it's like, oh, this isn't as good as what I was expecting.
It doesn't have this. It doesn't have that sort of edge or extra factor.
Yeah,
I don't want to use the term X factor because that's now been kind of taken by somebody else.
Can I just say
Yeah.
on the prawn cocktail crisps, for all the kids listening, just so you know, prawn cocktail crisps are not made from prawns. They're actually made from the ashes of dead mermaids.
That accounts for
Enjoy
that.
Ariel while you can. She's going to end up on your skips.
No, I was told one of our viewers commented to me that I should try out the Foo Fighters album from '97 because it's got a really good guitar tone on it.
It has. I did listen to that. I've only listened to half of it.
I did like a good guitar tone.
And it's got the great track on it, My Hero. And I think it's got Monkey Wrench on it as well. My Hero is a great track. So
I need to listen to this Foo Fighters album.
Yeah. But yeah, the Stereophonics dude. Yeah, give them a listen. This album's really good. The second album's good. The third album, Jeep, that's the one with Mr. Writer on it. And Have a Nice Day. You know, the track that got massively overplayed. Lyrically awful. I mean, the lyrics to it are.
That may be one of the things that's kind of subconsciously put me off Stereophonics is the Have a Nice Day song.
Yeah. And I can see why that would happen. That album for me it was neither here nor there because lyrically I thought it was quite lazy in parts.
Right.
But then I've revisited it as a sprightly young middle-aged man and I actually really quite enjoy it. To be fair, that first 5 albums I really quite enjoy because You've Got to Go There to Come Back with Madam Helga, etc. on I really enjoyed. And then you had Language, Violence, Sex, Other with Dakota and Superman and all those sort of tracks on it. So
when was the song? Didn't he do a song where he was whining about music journalists?
That's Mr. Writer, yeah.
Which album was that on?
Just Enough Education to Perform.
So was that the third album?
Yeah, which was going to be called Jeep, but obviously the American car company weren't going to allow them to use the word Jeep, so they had to call it Just Enough Education to Perform.
That's actually I think that's a better title than Jeep, to be quite honest.
Yeah. But yeah, Mr. Writer's all about, if I remember rightly, now don't quote me on this one, is they were followed by a particular music journalist who would sort of sing their praises on that. And then when he would actually write stuff about them was incredibly negative and,
so he was friendly to them, but then he slagged them off in his reviews.
Yeah.
Which you can see would perhaps maybe get on your nerves a little bit, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But it's a good album. The only thing that I find is it takes a lot for me to skip a track, but Step on Me Old, which is the one, Handbags and the Glad Rags.
Yeah, you don't like it.
I just don't like it. I don't know why. Do you know when you just, it's like Yorkshire puddings. I just don't like them.
I do get not liking that song. I also get why people like it. It's one of those songs that I
don't even like the original.
I can't. Is Rod Stewart being taken as the original? I don't know. Well, it's certainly the one that was based on, wasn't it? And I don't mind. I like a bit of Rod, but that wouldn't be.
I've heard Philster.
That wouldn't be like walked into.
I read it on a toilet wall.
Walked right into that one. Yeah.
Oh, was that Roger Moore? Yeah, I know. Yeah, big rods. Yeah, I know.
What was I saying? Yeah, Rod Stewart. Like a bit of Rod Stewart, but I wouldn't put that on my list of Desert Island Rod Stewart tracks. But I actually think that the Stereophonics. I remember once hearing the Stereophonics version played on the radio. I think I was in the car and it came on and I listened to it. And I think that I prefer their version to the Rod Stewart version, which I realise is possibly musical heresy to some people, but I think it's better.
I prefer it as well.
But you still don't like it.
But yeah, it's sort of the same dog poo filled sandwich. It's just that one's got chutney on and one hasn't.
one's brown bread and one's white bread. Or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So I've just but no, the album is a really, really good album and could quite possibly be in my top 3. And as we know, there are possibly only 2 places up for grabs, and at the moment it's between 3 albums. And it's going to be painful to get rid of one of them. But them is the dice that are rolled. Snake Eyes, House Wins.
Now, there's another album that I want to listen to again because it's an album that I bought back in 97. And I quite liked it. But I didn't. No, this is a band. This is, you probably won't guess this one, but it's an American band. It was actually the 5th album by this band. And it's in
REM, we know that.
No, it's not a million miles away in terms of the sort of music. It's not a million.
Crash Test Dummies. I know they're one of your favourites.
No,
4 Non-Blondes.
It wasn't. No, I'd say you were closer with REM, but
Weezer.
They are sort of a bit more towards the country side of alternative rock, more countryish than REM. A little bit more that way. And it was on the American Recordings label. And this is an album where one of the 2 principal songwriters of this band had left the band. And so one of them carried on being the main songwriter. It was as if Lennon or McCartney had left the Beatles, or
Bonehead and Quigsy had left Oasis, that sort of.
And they carried on, but with just one of them as the main songwriter.
Yeah.
Which obviously, if you were, I wasn't really a fan of the band up to that point, so I wasn't really affected by the fact that, I'm sure some fans of the band probably didn't like the fact that the guy had left.
You didn't queue up outside GMTV crying because
no. So yeah, I'm going to listen to it again because it's one of those albums I thought was good at the time, and I listened to it a bit, had it on in the car a bit and whatever, and I liked it, but I didn't think it was absolutely super brilliant.
Yeah.
But then I've heard it in more recent years. I remember something turned me back on, or I was reminded of this band, and I played the album again, or bits of the album again, and thought, yeah, this is pretty good. Maybe I should give this another listen. But I haven't given the whole thing another listen. And it is the Jayhawks and The Sound of Lies. Yeah. The Sound of Lies by the Jayhawks. Yeah. Now, I must admit, I've not listened extensively to their catalogue, but I do believe that they've got some pretty good albums. Hollywood Town Hall is another one that's quite well regarded.
Do you know who else has got a really good, strong back catalogue? Argos.
I knew it was going to be something like that. I just couldn't think what it was going to be.
Well, do you know an album? I could have gone for K's, Littlewoods, just any of them. Again, I am actually going to listen to this week. Not the Jayhawks, but I'm going to listen to Gary Barlow's solo album from this year.
Okay.
Because it didn't do very well because he kind of got overshadowed by the Williams.
Yeah.
And it'd be just interesting to go back almost 7 years later and sort of see if it,
Yeah, he was treated as being that he was a bit boring compared to Robbie Williams. And so that's why the media didn't really love him at that point, did they, particularly? No. There's been more love for him in recent in more well even.
Oh, I love a bit of the Barlow.
Decades. Yeah. But I think at that time he wasn't really being. Yeah, he was kind of being sort of ignored by comparison with Robbie Williams. That's how it seemed to me. I'm not to someone who's deeply following either of them, but that's how it looked.
No, I mean, I did buy the first 3 or 4 Robbie Williams albums. But one thing I will say about the Barlow, he is a consistently good songwriter. He might not like the genre of music that he writes, etc., but he is consistent. He does write a good pop track.
Well, I know the big hits that he's written. That this first solo album, I don't think had any big hits on.
No, I think it was lacking the hits. And I don't think at that point he had the charisma to really carry being a solo artist. Because I don't think he was as big as, say, a George Michael was, because he didn't have that worldwide sort of fame. Whereas Robbie Williams did, obviously, even though it was a detrimental effect to his mental health, did have that charisma to sort of carry it off. You've got to have a bit of arrogance, haven't you, to be a front man?
Well, as I remember it, and I wasn't paying a huge attention to take that at the time, but I remember that they were seen as because there was 5 of them, wasn't there, originally?
Yeah.
And it was a boy band of 5, and I think it was sort of known that Gary Barlow was the songwriting talent, but I don't think there wasn't this focus on him. He wasn't as known to the public in the way that, say, George Michael had been as part of Wham, because he was just part of a duo, and he was obviously much more of a familiar personality. He was halfway to being a solo artist, really, during the Wham period, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Whereas Gary Barlow wasn't anywhere near as close to that at that point.
Because I mean, he wasn't. We've gone down a complete wormhole, but as far as I remember from my time at high school and the female fraternity that frequented the place, that it was our Mark and our Robbie that we all loved.
That's right. Those were the ones that seemed the girls screamed for, as far as I'm aware.
Howard and Jason always seemed to be I don't know what it was, but even back then when I was 13, 14, they seemed to be in their mid-30s, even though they're in their early 20s. They looked like blokes, whereas the other Mark and Robbie looked like
boy band boys.
Yeah. So I don't mind to take that little wormhole we go down, Philster.
So yeah, okay, that's about it. I need to decide. I still haven't listened to Urban Hymns. That was my one that I was intending to.
Yes,
go
and I will say to Sam, Shoegaze 93. Check out his videos if you're into music. He's very big into his shoegazing. His message to me the other day.
Shoegazer 93.
That's it. Shoegazer 93. Check out his videos. He's a very good guy. He is a Plymouth fan. There is medication you can take for that. So
no one's perfect, Ben.
No one is perfect. No one is perfect. But he did send to me. He did say I was right about Catching the Butterfly, and then he did reply by saying Space and Time, Weeping Willow, Velvet Morning. Come on, The Rolling People. Come on, mate. Urban Hymns is brilliant. And it is a good album. And I will say this about it. It is a good album. It just doesn't hook me like it does some people. Like, obviously, it does Sam and people who really, really love that album. There's just something about it. It's a good, fundamentally good shoegazing indie album for its time. It just doesn't give me that urge to walk down the street with a chainsaw in my hand. There we go. But I love you, Sam.
I'm giving it a try. I admire your courage in delving into the Gary Barlow album. I'm not quite sure I can manage.
I'm only doing it just because I just feel that I should give it some, be a bit diverse for all our Gary Barlow fans out there. And you know who you are because I know where you all live.
Thanks for watching, viewers. Until then, take that. Bye for now.